ॐ शिवशक्तिसमारम्भां भास्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मत्श्रीनाथपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्. It's a small dhyana slokam I chant today and then I'll send it to you. I just don't have the English version. I only have the Sanskrit. So ज्ञानिनामपि चेतांसि देवी भगवती हि सा बलाधाकृष्य मोहाय महामाया प्रयच्छति दुर्गे स्मृता हरसि भीतिमशेषजन्तो स्वस्ते स्मृता मतिमतीव शुभां ददासि दारिद्र्यदुःखभयहारिणि का त्वदन्या सर्वोपकारकरणाय सदार्द्रचित्ता सर्वमङ्गलमाङ्गल्ये शिवे सर्वार्थसाधिके शरण्ये त्र्यम्बके गौरि नारायणि नमोऽस्तु ते शरणागत दीनार्थ परित्राण परायणे सर्वस्यार्तिहरे देवि नारायणि नमोऽस्तुते सर्वस्वरूपे सर्वेशे सर्वशक्ति समन्विते भयेभ्यस्त्राहि नो देवि दुर्गे देवि नमोऽस्तुते रोगानशेषानपहंसि तुष्टारुष्टातु कामान् सकलान् भीष्टान् त्वामाश्रितानां न विपन्नराणां त्वामाश्रिताः ह्याश्रयतां प्रयान्ति सर्वबाधा प्रशमनं त्रैलोक्यस्याखिलेश्वरि एवमेव त्वया कार्यमस्मद्वैरिविनाशनम्. Just a small dhyana slokam only. All of it will come in Devi Mahatmyam, but I'll send it to you also. So okay, so thanks all for pushing me and getting this started. I wanted to start it long time back, but it has been a very busy summer, so another it got delayed. But hopefully by next Navaratri, you'll all be expert in this. But this Navaratri will at least complete one small portion of it at least. I think most of you know each other from Buffalo Grove, but I know there are a few non-Buffalo Grovians also. So you'll probably go around this thing. Quick introduction, just your name, where you're from, and then what got you to Devi Mahatmyam. Just keep it short. So I'll start from the topmost person on my screen. So Minu, you're first on my screen.
Namaste and good evening, everyone. I'm Minu Pasupati from Rolling Meadows, and I have been attending Narayaniam class by Rajesh ji. Got very inspired to attend whatever classes he teaches. So first timer for Devi Mahatmyam. Hope it goes really well. Hoping to learn at least a teeny bit. Thank you. Nice to meet you all.
Thanks, Minu. Jaya, next.
Hi, my name is Chaya. I live in Buffalo Grove. It's my first ever slogam class, formal. So I hope I at least pass, Rajesh. Nice to meet you all. I know a lot of you here, so nice to meet you all.
Hey, Sangeeta.
I'm the only Sangeeta in this batch, Rajesh.
Yeah, this time.
I'm Sangeeta Prasad. I live in Vernon Hills. I was in Rajesh's Narayaniam batch too. Nariya absent, konjam present I finished 100 adhyayam. What inspired me to learn Devi Mahatmyam other than the script is, I think, the way Rajesh was teaching Narayaniam. So thank you for the inspiration, Rajesh, and I hope I'm more present than absent in this class.
Ram Ramya.
Ram Ramya from Buffalo Grove. Not only just now passed Narayaniyam, but just passed Narayaniyam. So adala vandu upgrade vandu promote panni next class ku vandachu.
Malini.
Namaskaram. My name is Malini, and I am easy introduction for me is I'm Matangi's sister. So a kind of and thanks to her and Rajesh ji, I am still in his going through the Narayaniam classes. Continuing, I have some exposure to Devi Mahatmyam, but not a whole lot. The idea for me, at least the goal for me, is to be very comfortable with this and make it a parayanam, regular parayanam for myself. So that was why I joined this group, and thanks Rajesh for adding me to this group. Appreciate this. Thanks.
Swami Lavanya.
Hey everyone, Swami and Lavanya. We also finished Narayaniam with Rajesh like 2 or 3 batches back. So excited to be learning Devi Mahatmyam. So I strongly believe that these are things that have to come our way, and it's not something that everybody doesn't get to learn. So happy that Rajesh, that timing works for both of us here. So
yeah. And to add it, I think both with Narayaniam and this, it just introduces to us to a very nice satsangam. So I'm very happy to belong to a satsangam, attend these parayanams, chant together. It gives a very good energy.
Matangi.
I'm Matangi Sekran. I'm from Libertyville. I first joined Rajesh class for Vishnu Sasnam and then continued with Narayaniam, which we just finished in June. And then now I'm so happy that he included me in this class. I've been bugging him too. But one thing I'm sure all of you know, his dedication and his patience to teach each one of these classes is just amazing. Thank you. God bless you. We cannot thank you enough for this.
Sure, thanks, Matangi. Jyoti? You're on mute. You're on mute, Jyoti.
I'm Jyoti. I'm in Buffalo Grove. Actually, I'm a recent visitor to Grace Lake Temple. But I had my Narayaniam classes with my cousin some time back, and that also happened to me when I was totally indisposed. And it picked me up, and I am what I am today, only because of Narayaniam and a surrender to Guru Ayyappan. And Devi Mahatmyam is one of the thing at the back of my mind. And I think Narayaniam brought me to Rajesh. Because I wanted when I went to the temple, I first inquired whether there is any Narayaniam chanting here. Then they told there is a big batch and this is a person, and I was messaging, and there was no reply for almost 3 months. After that, I caught him red-handed in one Narangetram, and then from there, I started pushing him. And last Chandika Homam, the one person got the book. So I told I have got the book, so start the classes. So like that, actually, Narayaniam also happened to me. I was longing to learn, and I was just expressing to one of my cousin that, oh, I want to learn Narayaniam. I am actually, I can't do anything because I was under house arrest kind of thing. So then she told Narayaniam only, right? I can teach you. So it just happened. And in 100 days, exactly 100 days, I finished one chapter per day, except for the days where I could not chant. So after that, we planned for chanting together, but never happened. But that 100 chapter went like, no, God has come and taught me. So like that. And this Devi Mahatmyam is another thing which I wanted to learn, and hope it is happening to me.
Thanks, Jyoti. Priya?
Hello, all. This is Priya Anand from Buffalo Grove. Narayaniam was something I missed by 2 classes, I think, last time, and I was on the wait list to get to the Rajesh's class. Every time I see him, I kept asking about this, and I'm so happy I got the opportunity now. Devi Mahatmyam is something very close to my heart. Like during Navratri, I get really high. And every time the Subramanian Vidya Mami, right, they always come to my house for Navratri. And last time they read Devi Mahatmyam while they were in my house. So from then on, I was playing it on YouTube. But then when this class was announced, I really wanted to learn it. And I'm really looking forward to it. I prayed to Devi before sitting here that Mandela Ermo. So I really hope I get the best out of this class. Thank you. Yeah.
Jai Shri Sriram.
Jai Shri and Sriram. We recently moved to Baltimore. So Sriram wants to learn Devi Mahatmyam. We've learned Narayaniam, and we are learning Bhagavatam from Rajesh. Thank you so much, Rajesh.
In spite of our poor performance, Rajesh is kind enough to accommodate us.
My dad used to chant Devi Mahatmyam every day. It takes 2.5 hours, I guess. So he used to chant this. So we are very fortunate to have a guru like Rajesh. Thank you, Rajesh.
Sure. Parvati, Sanjay.
Hello, my name is Parvati. We are in Florida. This is Sanjay. We are in Sarasota, Florida. Thanks to Malini for introducing us to you, Rajeshji, and to Devi Mahatmyam. We are really blessed. We are great, deep devotees of Devi from Rajarajeshwari Temple. We also have been Sri Vidya Upasakas. So this is such a great blessing for us. And thank you for this opportunity. And I really cannot thank Malini for joining us in this group and wanting to learn more from you. Thank you.
As someone actually said just a few minutes ago, this type of opportunity is a blessing that has to come to you. It's not something that you can just very easily go and just get. I've always wanted to and always liked to learn more slokas, especially Devi slokas, because that's really all, that's who I pray to. So I'm really very glad and happy to be here.
Thanks, Sanjay. Are you the same folks who are also dialed in as Paru, or who's that?
Yes,
Okay,
Parvati Paru.
make sure. Yeah, okay, I'm just confirming. I think Kritika and Ningada last.
Thank you, Rajesh ji. As everyone said, I started with Rajesh ji for a Vishnu Sahasranamam. I didn't even know that I will be called for Narayaniam. As everybody said, it is a blessing. Obviously, really, so that I can see it very clearly, because this is a blessing. I never know that Rajesh ji is taking Narayaniam, and he called me, and I am doing 49th Dasakam now. I didn't even completed it. And through some other friend, I got it for Devi Mahatmyam with Bhaskar Prakasha. And fortunately, Rajesh ji was there, because I didn't know Rajesh ji is doing. Today, I learned another information that Bhagavatam is done by Rajesh ji. I don't know when he is going to call, but Devi Mahatmyam, I was in that Bhaskar Prakasha's batch. Rajesh ji said, Kritika, I am doing it. So if he is doing, why should I go to others? I don't know whether I'm too early for this, because I didn't even complete my Narayaniam. But because Rajesh ji said, okay, I will add you, I am here. I don't know how I'm going to perform, but at least Narayaniam, I'm doing it to at least an okay level with, I don't know what Rajesh ji expected. Vishnu Sahasranamam to Narayaniam, I think I'm graduated, at least to chant.
Definitely,
Thank you,
Kritika.
Rajesh ji.
You're one of the examples I always quote people. You and few other people who started with very basic and then really have phenomenal improvement. So, thanks for that. Okay,
No,
thanks.
I have to say thank you, Rajesh ji. Daily 30 minutes, but after I move, I'm here. So this week I didn't do it. But yeah, if I listen to you, I will be able to tell.
Sure. Thanks, Kritika. Thanks, everyone. I think most of you know each other, but I know there are few, and I think Sanjay and Parvati. I don't know, are you Tamil or not? I know Jyoti is Malayali, but she understands Tamil a little bit, hopefully. So, not that I'm going to say anything in Tamil, but
I'm a Tamilian.
நீங்க சொன்னேன் மாதேவன். Anyway, so
Sanjay Paru and Tamil da.
okay, so that's good. All right. So what I'll do, right, is we'll just give a quick introduction to Devi Mahatmyam, right, just to give a context of what it is, because you all might have heard about it with different names to it. So, since we all work and we do work on PowerPoints, I also do the same. So I'm going to share a PowerPoint and take about 10 minutes to walk through this, okay? So, all right. Are you all able to see the screen? Okay. All right. So I won't put it in run mode, so that way I can see you all also. So, just the name itself, right? So it goes by different names, right? Some of you might have heard it as Devi Mahatmyam, some of them as Durga Saptashati. In North, it is called as Chandi Pat, right? But at the end of the day, Mahatmyam, Maha Atma means somebody who's a super soul, right? So Mahatmyam is really the greatness, right? So magnanimity, high praise of somebody. So Devi Mahatmyam, literal translation is praise of the goddess or glory of the goddess. That's what Devi Mahatmyam is. It's also called Durga Saptashati because it's got 700 verses. There are score 700 verses across 13 chapters, so that's why it's called Saptashati. And it's called Chandi Pat in North because the Devi here, there are different names, and we'll go through some of the names. When we say Devi, it's very loosely used term, but the Chandika Mahalakshmi is the goddess who is referred to in Devi Mahatmyam. She's the person who is referred to, and then she has various incarnations and all of that. So that's why it's called Chandi Pat, because it's referring to Chandika. That's the main goddess, right, who it's referring to. And this one is actually as part of the Markandeya Purana. There are 18 Puranas, right? And Markandeya Purana is one such Purana. The date here I will ignore, because the date here, when it is referred to as 550 BC, 250 BC, all of these things, it is just probably when somebody compiled it or put it in text, right? But in reality, no one knows when this was compiled by Markandeya, because In the 11th chapter of Devi Mahatmyam, Devi says, in the Vaivaswata Manvantara, for those of you who done Narayana, you know what the Manu and Manvantara are. In the Vaivaswata Manvantara, during Krishna's birth, I will take birth as the daughter of Yashoda. So in this case, the context of this was said in the 11th chapter, where Devi is telling this to the Devas. She is saying in the future in Vaivaswata Manvantara, I am going to be born, which means the original compilation of all these things must have happened way before Vaivasvata Manvantara, right? Way before, long time back, right? So let's not worry about the dates, but it really, goes over a long period of time in the past. And, like this primarily, this Chandika is primarily three deities. It's called Mahakali, Mahalakshmi, and Mahasaraswati, right? Those are the three incarnations of this deity. And the 13 chapters are divided in such a way that the first chapter is devoted to Mahakali, 2 to 4 is to Mahalakshmi, and 5 to 13 is to Mahasaraswati. So those are the presiding deities or the goddess of each of those chapters. And each of these goddesses have like a bija mantra that is associated with that. So when we kind of go through each of these chapters, I'll tell you what the bija mantra is, and that is referring to each of these goddesses, right, which are there in the three categories. No, even when we buy something on Amazon, right, we go and look for reviews, right, of do other people like it? What do other people comment about it? Is it worth buying it, right? So similarly for all of these texts, whether it be Vishnu Sahasranamam, Lalita Sahasranamam, Devi Mahatmyam, right, it's very important to see who has actually written commentary. And lot of commentaries on Devi Mahatmyam, right? So you can go online and there are tons of people who have written about it. But the most important one is Sri Bhaskara Raya. So when I think people were mentioning Bhaskara Prakasha Ashramam, right? So we are all now part of it. So I learned it through Bhaskara Prakasha Ashramam. That is my kind of ashramam from where I learned it. And because you are kind of learning it through me now, you're automatically as part of that, right? And then you will all get Diksha at some point, right? Which is kind of the specific mantra which will be given to you. And you can learn Devi Mahatmyam even before you get the Diksha. And then, but at some point, you will have to get the Diksha, because only when you get the Diksha are you allowed to participate in homams and really do all of the parayanams and everything, right? And that will happen only in person. So when Raghuvanna, some of you might know about him. So Raghu and Akhilamani, when they are now traveling, I think and when they're in Chicago next, I will let you all know. And he'll give appointments to everybody. It's just a 5-minute process for you to get the Diksha. So this Bhaskara Prakasha Ashram, this Bhaskara Raya is the one who kind of has a huge compilation of this, right? And for those who are familiar with Vedas, Vedas are called Shruti because Vedas were never written. It was heard, right? It is not a Smriti. Smriti is something which is written or compiled by somebody. Shruti is Vedas. But here, Bhaskara Raya says, Devi Mahatmyam is Drishta. It was not heard, it was not written. It was actually seen, right, by Markandeya, and somehow he saw those mantrams and then he wrote it, right? So that is actually one of the big greatest of Devi Mahatmyam. And the other thing here is, for those who chant Vishnu Sahasranamam, right, in that, when Yudhishthira is going and asking Bhishma questions, he says, Kim Japan Muchyate Jantur. He says, what Japam should I do? Right? Kim Japan Muchyate Jantur Janma Samsara Bandhanat. So he asks, what Japam should I do? So Vishnu Sahasranamam is a Japam. So is Lalita Sahasranamam. Now, Vedas, when you think of Vedas, you do homam, right? You do homam for Vedas. So like you say Rudram. Rudram, you can do a Rudra homam, you can do. You can do Purusha Sukta homam. You can do Sri Sukta homam. Because they're all Angams or they're all Vedas. No Purana, you can do homam, right? Bhagavatam, you don't do Bhagavata homam. You don't do homam for any of those things. However, Devi Mahatmyam is an exception. Because Devi Mahatmyam, which is part of Markandeya Purana, is as good as the Vedas that you can actually do a Chandi Homam by chanting Devi Mahatmyam, right? So that is one of the specialities of it. So anytime, see, when I teach Vishnu Sahasranamam or I teach Narayaniam, I say there are no constraints, right? You can chant Vishnu Sahasranamam anytime you want, anywhere you want. There are no constraints about it, right? Because it's a Japam. You can do Japam anywhere. But you don't go and chant Vedas anywhere. You don't sit in your bathroom and chant Vedas, right? So, and similarly, when you're chanting Vedas, you have to take a shower. There are certain procedures you follow when you chant Vedas. So, because although Devi Mahatmyam is not a Veda, it is given the category of like being like a Veda because you're doing homam to it. So, there are a lot of rules around how and when you should chant Devi Mahatmyam, right? So just a basic thing, basic cleanliness, like don't sit on the bed, and don't chant it in the bathroom, just usual things, right? Don't chant it when you're eating, that kind of rules I'm talking about, right? And of course, when it comes to homam, there are a lot of restrictions around it, but that we'll not worry about it right now. Then the because it is like a Veda, you do not say it in your mind. A mantram is manase trayati iti mantra. Any mantram somebody says Om Namo Narayanaya, you don't have to chant it loud. You can say it in your mind. You don't have to say it loud, right? It's just for you to concentrate on your mind. But Vedas, you won't see anybody chanting Vedas in their mind. They have to chant it out loud because the words have certain vibration. And the words, the way you say those words, create those vibrations. Similarly, Devi Mahatmyam is exactly that. Each of the aksharam which is there in Devi Mahatmyam has a certain vibration. And we'll see when we do Kilakam, we'll see how Lord Shiva embeds Devi in every single aksharam of Devi Mahatmyam, because of which the power of Devi Mahatmyam comes from the sound that you actually emit, right? So you have to say Devi Mahatmyam out loud and not in your mind. You can say it in your mind, but the real power of Devi Mahatmyam will come only when you say it out loud and say it in the right way. So for those of you who learn Narayaniam, Vishnu Sahasranamam, Devi Mahatmyam is a little harder because a lot of emphasis is given to the pronunciation of it. Right, so it's very important that you say it right. Now, you may not get it off in the first level, but eventually, when you complete the whole thing, we'll get to a point where you'll be able to say it at the right way. Right, that should be the eventual goal: is how do I say it properly? Right. So that is one important thing because it is kind of comes from the thing that. Now, who is this Devi, right? We keep talking about, everybody. Lakshmi is Lakshmi Devi, Durga Devi, Saraswati Devi. Everything is a Devi. Everybody is a Devi, right? But in this context of Devi Mahatmya, who is the Devi that is being referred? So here, the Devi here is referring to what you call as Adi Shakti, who is the universal mother or the original supreme goddess or the male equivalent of energy equivalent of Brahman. Think of it that way, right? So she is the one primordial energy from which everybody else comes, all the other Devis come. So it is not individual Devis because each of that has an incarnation that will happen. So as we are kind of going through this, we'll see a lot of names that will come. You'll see like Maheshwari, Brahmani, Kaumari, Varahi, Narasimhi, Aindri, all these Devi names are going to come. But you'll see how all of those Devis come from one main goddess. So that one main goddess is what this is being referred to. That's what, when you say Devi in this case, that's the Devi it's referring to. And just like Rudra, Rudra, when we say Rudram, it has a very terrible form, right? It is, first you start off by saying, I prostrate to you. That's the first sentence of Rudram. Is I'm prostrating to you because you are angry. So I have to calm you down. At the same time, Shiva is also called as Ashutoshi, the one who can be very easily pleased. So similarly, the Devi also has two forms or two kind of modes, right? One is a very scary form, which we'll see in Devi Mahatmyam, where she destroys all the asuras. At the same time, she's also the universal mother. So because it says Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Matru Rupena Samstita, right? So she's existing as a mother. A mother can never be angry or mother can never harm a child. So you have to always realize that while the Devi shows that Ghoram Rupam, inherently Devi is very calm and she's a very benevolent person who will help everybody as a children. So that is the kind of the core aspects of his, right? And we'll see all the various forms that Devi is going to take in Devi Mahatmya as we kind of go through this, right? So in terms of the context of how this, and we'll go through the stories and everything that is there when we start the chapters, right? But at the end of the day, there are, Madhu, Kaitabha, Mahishasura, Shumbha, Nishumbha, right? And Chanda, Munda. So these are all the demons who Devi is going to eradicate in Devi Mahatmyam. While each of this might look like a plain story, right? What everybody has said, there's so many inherent subtle meanings in there. It's also called as Guptavati. It is something saying there is esoteric secret. So you will not know exactly what the secret is, but then this really talks about when we say, we chant it as if it's a story, but then behind the scenes, each of those aksharam, like I said, has a meaning. It all has an effect. So you don't have to worry about it. And we'll see why. Like I said in Kilakam, one of the things we learn, it'll say about do not worry about you say chanting it as a story. You will just say it as a story, right? Because then why are we chanting it? Why can't we just read it? Because when you're reading it, you're only reading the story. But when you're chanting it, you're chanting the mantram, which has powers embedded into it. So that is the difference between this, right? So anyway, the context in this very high level is there is a king, Kshatriya, called Surata, and there is a merchant called as, or a Vaishya called Samadhi. Each of them has their problems. We'll see what their problems are when we kind of get into chapter one. But at the end of the day, each of them are, very similar to the problems we have, right? Vaishya comes and says, I work so much for my family, but now that I lost all my money, my family doesn't seem to care about me, but I seem to be attached to them. Why is that? Right? That's the problem he's having. They kicked me out, but I still cannot forget my wife. I cannot forget my children and all of that. And the Surata, the Kshatriya, is just like our corporate, right? They let him go, they fire him, he loses his kingdom, but he's still attached to his job, right? He's still, I'm still wondering what's happening to my kingdom. Is my kingdom going to work? Are people actually taking care of it, right? So these are the two problems these people come, and they come and meet a sage called a Sumedas, and they come and ask him that question, which I put it at the bottom, right? He's saying, why is our mind still attached to things which have gone past? Why am I not able to move forward? To which Sumedhas then talks about the entire Devi Mahatmyam, right? He talks about all the story about why you should focus your mind on this one goddess, right? Which is the Chandika. So that is the quick context, right, as to what it is about. It's really a conversation that actually happens. Like every Hindu script, it starts with a question. They say, what should I be doing, right? To which the entire Devi Mahatmyam gets recited or gets referred. But behind the scenes, if you really look at the words that are used, Surata means somebody who's a good chariot. Su means good. Rata is a chariot. So Surata means somebody is a good chariot. Now, if you think of your own body, right? So your body is your chariot, right? Because the body is what actually takes you, right? And this comes in Katha Upanishad, and he says your mind is what controls us. So mind is like the reins of the horse, right? Which you can control when you're driving the chariot. Now, this King Surata, because he's a king, he of course should have a strong body. He's well endowed, right? Strong physique and everything. So he's capable of protecting him, and he's capable of protecting everybody. But what he doesn't realize, that when you say you or I, it is referring to the self or the Atman and not the body. He doesn't have that knowledge. So that self-realization is missing. So the king has a good physique, but he is missing self-realizations. While he has a good body, he doesn't have the rider as a self, he's missing it. The samadhi means, when it says I'm in samadhi, when somebody goes to samadhi, that means their mind is unflinched and focused on one thing, right? They are in the state of meditation of samadhi. However, this Vaishya, while he's single-minded samadhi in his material pursuits, he's not truly relating his mind to where he should be focusing on, which is on the god or the goddess. So that's why these two people, the Surata who has a great body and Samadhi who has a very focused mind, they are not having true happiness because they are missing the intellect, which is Medas. Medas is the name of the stage they're coming to, right? So the Medas means intellect. So they have to come and get that intellect and understand the true knowledge, which will give them happiness. So that is a kind of a subtle context of the names which are being used here, right? Of the three characters. And they are only these three characters who keep talking to each other, right? And then the story is going to go as we kind of go through it. So that's just a quick thing. So in terms of the chapters itself, right, there are 13 chapters, like I said. These are the various chapters and number of stanzas. It'll all add to 700. And like I said, there's a lot of subtle meanings, right, beyond even my comprehension or, a lot of people's comprehension. Because if you look at what each of this thing means, madhu is sweet, right? Addiction, we are all addicted to sweet. And Kaitabha is bitterness, aversion to things. So killing of Madhu and Kaitaba means how do you get over addiction and how do you get over bitterness? That's one way to look at it, right? And if you look at all the names which are actually used here, right? Chanda and Munda and Rakta Bhija. Rakta Bhija is like so much desire for something, it's like unfulfilled, so many unquenchable desires that you have. How do you get over it? So each of this, when you chant it, it's essentially saying that you kind of go through a journey where Devi is getting rid of each of these problems that you have, right? And eventually you come to the very end where you play to Narayani and then you finally get your blessings, right? So that is kind of the general progression of how this Devi Mahatmyam goes. However, when we talk about it, I'm only going to be able to explain it in the simple context of how Devi is getting rid of Chanda and Munda and Shumba and Nishumba. But you have to realize that each of this has a subtle meaning behind it, right? As to how by chanting it, you're able to overcome each of that. Now, a lot of you asked about what is the sequence, right? It's called as a Parayana Vidhi. So when we are chanting Devi Mahatmyam, I think somebody said, right? I think Jyoti or somebody, that we typically, when you are in a fluent stage, you can chant the whole thing in about 2 hours and 15 minutes. That's a standard in Chicago. Experts, who chant 2 hours 15 minutes, right? Full thing. It goes pretty fast, but typically it'll take about 4 hours, right? If you're doing it slowly, and you'll see there is an initial portion which is the Purvangam, then there is the 13 chapters, and then there is the Uttarangam, which is the tail end of it, right? Now, this is the sequence which we're going to follow. However, this one particular thing, Siddha Kunchika Stotram, which actually comes first, I intentionally don't teach it first because that has got a lot of bija mantras, and I want to make sure everybody's pronunciation is crisp before we get into that. So I typically leave this to the very end, and only after having gone through all the 13 chapters, I then come back to Siddha Kunchika Stotram and then I start. Okay, so because it is a little bit, it's simple, but it's got very complex and it's got some aksharams which I want to make sure you don't make mistakes there. So this is going to be the sequence in which we chant, and I'll send you all this sequence, right? So if you have PDFs and you're trying to print it, so Devi Kavacham, Argala Stotram, Keelakam, then Nyasam, Navakshari, all of this. If you're following the BPA, the PDF, it has all of it in the exact same sequence. If you're following Gita Press books, the 13 chapters will be in sequence, but some of these things may not be in this sequence, and they may not have Nyasam and Navakshari, which when we come to that, you may have to print it from the BPA PDF, right? So if you're having Gita Press, or I think Malini, you had some other thing, right? You may have to just make sure that the sequence is matching as we kind of go through this, okay? But most of the stuff should be there, but the Nyasam and Navakshari will not be there, which you will have to print from the BPA PDF. Okay. So one last thing then. So some of you are familiar with Ekadasa Rudram, where we chanted 11 times, Maharudram, where 121 Ritviks come, chanted 11 times, Ati Rudram, and so on. Similarly, there are different levels of Chandi Homams. So a Shata Chandi means you totally have to do, amongst everybody, you should have completed 100 Parayanams, and 10 homams should have happened, which could mean 10 people doing one homam. That also counts as 10, right? Number of people into number of times done. And this Navakshari, which you will learn, which is the Diksha you will get, 10,000 has to be chanted. For a Laksha Chandi, you should have done 100,000 Parayanams, 1,000 homams, and 10 million Navakshari, to give you context. In 2020, Bhaskara Prakasha Ashramam took a sankalpam to say we want to do a Laksha Chandi. And people all over the world started signing up. It started during COVID, right, in 2020. And in 2022, December 29th, they completed the final 1,000th homam. And you can see from here, 1,000 homams got completed. Across the globe, people chanted 113,000 times. Okay, Chandi, Devi Mahatmyam. And for a 10 million Navakshari, 24.5 million counts of Navakshari were chanted globally. And just to give you a context, in Chicago, during COVID times, 30 of us every day for one full year we chanted. So each of us alone chanted like 350, 400 times, right? So many. So that's when Chicago, a lot of people started chanting during that COVID time, right? So I think, for some of you who came to the Grace Lake Chandi Homam, which we just did last month, we had about like 50 chanters who came there just from Chicago, right? So we have a huge network of people who chant in Chicago, and of course other places also, right? California and New Jersey area also, a lot of them chant. So this is to kind of give you a context, right? So what we did was just one homam, but typically these are the scales of homams which you can actually do with Devi Mahatmyam, right? So anyway, so that was the quick intro I kind of wanted to give, in terms of what Devi Mahatmyam is. Hope that give you some context, right, of what we're going to do. And for those of you who attended my previous classes, I know some of you are new. The way we would do it is, I'll pick 2 students to repeat after me. And then the expectation is you come prepared the next class. Whether you attended the previous class or no, doesn't matter. You have to come prepared for the next class. I will randomly choose 2 people to chant at the beginning of the class, right? So that's kind of how we will do it. And then all the sessions are going to be recorded, of course. So if you miss a class, you can still go and listen to the recording on YouTube. So I'll pause here to see if anybody has any quick questions, and then we can get into the first Devi Kavacham today. No questions? Okay. Say, today, since it's the first class, who wants to volunteer? I need 2 people who want to volunteer for Devi Kavacham. Okay, Ram and Malini. Okay. Right, you have the script, right? Ram, Malini.
Yeah.
Okay. So the Devi Kavacham is before you chant anything, right? Kavacham means a shield, right? You know, Narayana Kavacham is there. Then you have, Skanda Shashti Kavacham is there. It's a shield. So before you start Devi Mahatmyam actual, you're first telling Devi, please bless me with good health. Please protect all of my parts of my body. So you are able to complete the chanting of Devi Mahatmyam. And for us in this case, we're starting a new session. So we are praying that, make sure that I stay through the full session. I don't, there are no physical problems that I end up dropping out, right? And it's really a protection. So this Devi Kavacham is something you can chant every day. It is like any other Kavacham that you might have learned. It is the same thing, right? So today we'll just go through some stanzas and I'll explain the meaning of this in the next class, right? Since we have only about 20 minutes left. Okay, so first one, if you're ready. So Asya Shri Chandi Kavachasya Brahma Rishihi. So anytime you have the Rishi's name, you have to touch your forehead. So Brahma Rishihi. Anushtup Chandaha, so that is your nose. Chamunda Devata, so your heart. So we'll do those 3. And the same, it follows a single tune for all the things, except when there's 4 lines, it follows a slightly different tune, but otherwise it's the same tune for everything. Okay, so try to stick to the tune because that's a standard BPA tune. Asya Shri Chandi Kavachasya Brahma Rishihi Anushtup Chandaha Chamunda Devata.
अस्य श्री चंडी कवचस्य ब्रह्मा ऋषिः अनुष्टुप् छन्दः चामुण्डा देवता अस्य श्री चंडी कवचस्य ब्रह्मा ऋषिः अनुष्टुप् छन्दः चामुण्डा देवता
अस्य श्रीचण्डीकवचस्य ब्रह्मा ऋषिः अनुष्टुप् छन्दः चामुण्डा देवता.
And the Kavachasya, when Andhika, you don't have to touch. Only from Brahma Rishihi, you touch your forehead.
अस्य श्रीचण्डीकवचस्य ब्रह्मा ऋषिः अनुष्टुप् छन्दः चामुण्डा देवता.
Anganya Sokta Mataro Bijam, right shoulder. Digbanda Devatas Tattvam, left shoulder. Shri Jagadamba Prityarte Saptashathi Patangatvena Jape Viniyogaha. So this you can either hold your hands or you can do like this Swaha types, right? Patangatvena. So it's one of the Angam of Devi Mahatmyam. So before you chant Devi Mahatmyam, let me first chant one of the Angam of Devi Mahatmyam, which is the Devi Kavacham, right? If you are doing a homam, then the Japam, Jape Viniyogaha becomes Home Viniyogaha, right? You can just mark it and keep. But now we're only doing Japam, so we don't have to say Homam. Anghanya Sokta Mataro Bijam Digbanda Devatas Tattvam Shri Jagadambha Prityarte Saptashati Pathangatvena Jape Viniyogaha.
Anganya Sokta Mataru Bijam Digbandha Devatastatvam Shri Jagadamba Prityarte Saptashati Patangatakvena Chape Viniyogaha Anganya Sokta Mataru Bijam Digbandha Devatastatvam Shri Jagadamba Prityarte Saptashati Patangatvena Chape Viniyogaha
Anganya Soktamataro Bijam Digbandha Devatastatvam Sri Jagadamba Prityarte Saptashashi Padangatvena Jape Viniyogaha Anganya Soktamataro Bijam Digbandha Devatastatvam Sri Jagadamba Prityarte Saptashati Padangatvena Jape Viniyogaha
Pathangatvena. Awesome.
Padangatvena Jape Viniyogaha.
Yeah, for those of you who are not following Sanskrit, if you're using Tamil or any other language, right, you'll have the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and things like that, right? Because Tamil doesn't have like pa, pa, ba, ba, right? 4. Tamil will put as 1, 2, 3, 4. So you should get used to what that number 1, 2, 3, 4 are, because it's very we'll emphasize a lot on cha, cha, and all of that stuff, right? So similarly, wherever the number is coming, be careful about that. Om Namash Chandikayai Markandeyo Vacha Yadguhyam Paramam Loke Sarva Rakshakaram Nrinam Yenna Kasya chidakhyatam tanme bruhi pitamaha. So the other thing which I'll place a lot of emphasis and I'll keep correcting you all till the last class will be short E, long E, right? And you'll learn very carefully. A lot of people say Narayani Namostute. That's not the right way, because when you say Narayani, Narayani becomes the subject, who's doing it. Here we're saying, oh Narayani, you're the object, right? So just Narayani Namostute. So we're going to make a lot of those corrections. So here I'll keep telling a lot of places short, long. So here Bruhi is a short E. So you should be careful not to say Tanme Bruhi Pitamaha, then it becomes a long E, right? It's a short E in this case. Om Namaschandikaye Markandeyo Vacha Yadguhyam Paramam Loke Sarva Rakshakaram Hrinam Yenna Kasyachidakyatam Tanme Bruhi Pitamaha.
Om Namaschandikaye Markandeyo Vacha Yadguhyam Paramam Loke Sarva Rakshakaram Nrinam Yenna Kasyachidakyatam Tanme Bruhi Pitamaha. Om Namaschandikaye Markandeya Uvacha Yadguhyam Paramam Loke Sarva Rakshakaram Nrinam Yenna Kasyachidakyatam Tanme Bruhi Pitamaha.
Malini mute lirke.
Om Namaschandikaye Markandeya Uvacha Yadguhyam Paramam Loke Sarva Rakshakaram Nrinam Yenna Kasyachidakyatam Tanme Bruhi Pitamaha. Om Namaschandikaye Markandeya Uvacha Yadguhyam Paramam Loke Sarva Rakshakaram Nrinam Yenna Kasyachidakyatam Tanme Bruhi Pitamaha.
Brahmovacha Asti Guhyatamam Vipra Sarva Bhutopakarakam Devyastu Kavacham Punyam Tachrunushva Mahamune. So some of these things, like if you cannot say the full line together, it is okay to break that line in the middle. So for example, here this you can say all of these lines. Asti Guhyatamam Vipra Sarva Bhutopakarakam Devyastu Kavacham Punyam Tachrunushva Mahamune, which is totally fine. Right? Eventually, you can come to saying the full line together. I will say the full line together, but if you want to, you can break in the middle if you're not able.
Rajesh, அது touch அந்த word இன்னொரு வாட்டி சொல்லுங்க.
Tachru. So each and chru
nushva mahamane. Okay.
Yeah. Brahmovacha asti guhyatamam vipra sarva bhutopakarakam devyastu kavacham punyam tachrunushva mahamune.
Brahmovacha Asti Guhyatamam Vipra Sarva Bhutopakarakam Devyastu Kavacham Punyam Tachrunushva Mahamune. Brahmovacha Asti Guhyatamam Vipra Sarva Bhutopakarakam Devyastu Kavacham Punyam Tachrunushva Mahamune.
Brahmovacha Asti Guhyatamam Vipram Sarvabhutoparakam Devyastu Kavacham Punyam Tachrunushva Mahamune. Brahmovacha Asti Guhyatamam Vipra Sarvabhutoparakam Devyastu Kavacham Punyam Tachrunushva Mahamune.
Prathamam Shailaputri cha Dvitiyam Brahmacharini long E, Tritiyam Chandra Ghanteti short E, Kushmandeti Chaturtakam. Prathamam Shailaputri cha Dvitiyam Brahmacharini, Tritiyam Chandra Ghanteti Kushmandeti Chaturtakam.
Prathamam Shailaputri cha Dvitiyam Brahmacharini Tritiyam Chandra Ghanteti Kushmandeti Chaturthakam. Prathamam Shailaputri cha Dvitiyam Brahmacharini Tritiyam Chandra Ghanteti Kushmandeti Chaturthakam.
Pratamam Shailaputri cha Dvitiyam Brahmacharini Tritiyam चन्द्रघण्टेति कूष्माण्डेति चतुर्थकम् प्रथमं शैलपुत्री च द्वितीयं ब्रह्मचारिणी तृतीयं चन्द्रघण्टेति कूष्माण्डेति चतुर्थकम्
पञ्चमं स्कन्दमातेति short e, षष्ठं कात्यायनीति च, सप्तमं कालरात्रीति महागौरीति चाष्टमम्, all short e's. पंचमं स्कन्दमातेति षष्ठं कात्यायनीति च, सप्तमं कालरात्रीति महागौरीति चाष्टमम्.
पञ्चमं स्कन्दमातेति षष्ठं कात्यायनीति च, सप्तमं कालरात्रीति महागौरीति चाष्टमम्. पञ्चमं स्कन्दमातेति षष्ठं कात्यायनीति च, सप्तमं कालरात्रीति महागौरीति चाष्टमम्.
पञ्चमं स्कन्दमातेति षष्ठं कात्यायनीति च, सप्तमं कालरात्रीति महागौरीति षष्ठमम्. पञ्चमं स्कन्दमातेति षष्ठं कात्यायनीति च, सप्तमं कालरात्रीति महागौरीति षष्ठमम्.
नवमं सिद्धिधात्री च नवदुर्गा. So I think some of you, Jaya, Priya, Jyoti, Sanjay and Parvati and others. So since you are, so you have this visargas, right? Others know about this, but if you don't know the rule here, when you have this visargas, which are the two dots that come, right? So you cannot say that visarga unless it's coming at the very end of the sentence, okay? Or unless it's a ksha which is coming, which I'll call out at the time. Otherwise, there's always a joining letter which you have to put to say that, okay? So here, Navadurgaha, Prakirtitaha are there, right? So that Navadurgaha, you have to put a F to join because pa is coming later, right? So you have to put a F letter to join it, okay? So if you have a paper, then it's better to add that F and keep, otherwise you'll forget. Eventually you'll get into that routine, right? So Navamam Siddhi Dhatri cha Navadurgah Prakirtitaha Uktanyetani Namani Brahmanaiva Mahatmana. Navamam Siddhi Dhatri cha Navadurgah Prakirtitaha Uktanyetani Namani Brahmanaiva Mahatmana.
नवमं सिद्धिदात्री च नवदुर्गाः प्रकीर्तिताः उक्तान्येतानि नामानि ब्रह्मणैव महात्मना. नवमं सिद्धिदात्री च नवदुर्गाः प्रकीर्तिताः उक्तान्येतानि नामानि ब्रह्मणैव महात्मना.
नवमं सिद्धिदात्री च नवदुर्गाः प्रकीर्तिताः उक्तान्येतानि नामानि ब्रह्मणैव महात्मना. ब्रह्मणैव महात्मना. नवमं सिद्धिदात्री च नवदुर्गाः प्रकीर्तिताः उक्तान्येतानि नामानि ब्रह्मण्यैव महात्मना.
You said Brahmanyeva, it's Brahmanaiva.
Sorry, Brahmanaiva Mahatmana.
Agnina.
Rajesh, Brahmanaiva, Brahmanaiva.
Brahmanaiva.
Na.
Brahmanaiva Mahatmana. Agnina dahyamanastu shatru madhye gato rane Vishame Durgame Chaiva Bhayartaha is there, put a ish to join it. Bhayartash Sharanam Gataha. Agnina Dahyamanastu Shatru Madhye Gatorane Vishame Durgame Chaiva Bhayartash Sharanam Gataha.
Agnina Dahyamanastu Shatru Madhye Gatorane Vishame Durgame Chaiva Bhayartash Sharanam Gataha. Agnina Dahyamanastu Shatru Madhye Gatorane Vishame Durgame Chaiva Bhayartash Sharanam Gataha.
I thought it. Agnina dahyamanastu shatru madhye gato rane विषमे दुर्गमे चैव भयार्ताव
Bayarthash.
ओके भयार्ताश्चरणं गताः अग्निना दह्यमानस्तु शत्रुमध्ये गतो रणे विषमे दुर्गमे चैव भयार्ताश्चरणं गताः
Na tesham jayate kinchit. So that the that is coming there, it'd be easier to break that the into it and a. So kinchit ashubham rana sankate, because that kind of comes in the halfway mark. Napadam tasya pashyami shoka dukkha bayam nahi. Short e. Okay, the very last he is a short one. न तेषां जायते किञ्चिदशुभं रणसङ्कटे नापदं तस्य पश्यामि शोकदुःखभयं नहि
न तेषां जायते किञ्चित् अशुभं रणसङ्कटे नापदं तस्य पश्यामि शोकदुःखभयं नहि न तेषां जायते किञ्चित् अशुभं रणसङ्कटे नापदं तस्य पश्यामि शोकदुःखभयं नहि
न तेषां जायते किञ्चित् अशुभं रणसङ्कटे नापदं तस्य पश्यामि शोकदुःखभयं नहि न तेषां जायते किञ्चित् अशुभं रणसङ्कटे नापदं तस्य पश्यामि शोकदुःखभयं नहि
यैस्तु भक्त्या स्मृता नूनं तेषां वृद्धिः पुट एफ वृद्धिः प्रजायते ये त्वां स्मरन्ति देवेशि रक्षसे तान्न संशयः. So one thing I always recommend initially, at least, is if you have a printout, is anytime there's a short E, mark it and keep, because by default everybody tends to say the long E, right? Nobody will pay attention to the short. So wherever it is short, you just put a small underline, so consciously you start, not stretching it, right? Especially Devi will come in so many places. Some places it will be short E, some places it will be long E. So यैस्तु भक्त्या स्मृता नूनं तेषां वृद्धिः प्रजायते ये त्वां स्मरन्ति देवेशि रक्षसे तान्न संशयः.
यैस्तु भक्त्या स्मृता नूनं तेषां वृद्धिः प्रजायते ये त्वां स्मरन्ति देवेशि रक्षसे तान्न संशयः यैस्तु भक्त्या स्मृता नूनं तेषां वृद्धिः प्रजायते ये त्वां स्मरन्ति देवेशि रक्षसे तान्न संशयः
यैस्तु भक्त्या स्मृता नूनं तेषां वृद्धिः प्रजायते ये त्वां स्मरन्ति देवेशि रक्षसे तान् संशयः यैस्तु भक्त्या स्मृता नूनान् तेषां वृद्धिः प्रजायते ये त्वां स्मरन्ति देवेशि रक्षसे तान् संशयः.
Second time noonam, you said it's noonam. Okay, the first line.
Okay.
Noonam. Preta samstha tu chamunda varahi long e mahishasana aindri gaja samarudha vaishnavi garudasana. Preta samstha tu chamunda varahi mahishasana ऐन्द्री गजसमारूढ़ा वैष्णवी गरुडासना.
प्रेतसंस्थातु चामुण्डा वाराही महिषासना ऐन्द्री गजसमारूढा वैष्णवी गरुडासना प्रेतसंस्थातु चामुण्डा वाराही महिषासना ऐन्द्री गजसमारूढा वैष्णवी गरुडासना.
प्रेतसंस्थातु चामुण्डा वाराही महिषासना ऐन्द्री गजसमारूढ़ा वैष्णवी गरुडासना.
Second line, first word, ऐन्द्री.
ऐन्द्री गज. प्रेतसंस्थातु चामुण्डा वाराही महिषासना ऐन्द्री गजसमारूढ़ा वैष्णवी गरुडासना.
माहेश्वरी वृषारूढ़ा कौमारी शिखि वाहना लक्ष्मीः पुट एफ लक्ष्मीः पद्मासना देवी पद्महस्ता हरिप्रिया. माहेश्वरी वृषारूढा कौमारी शिखिवाहना लक्ष्मीः पद्मासना देवी पद्महस्ता हरिप्रिया
माहेश्वरी वृषारूढा कौमारी शिखिवाहना लक्ष्मीः पद्मासना देवी पद्महस्ता हरिप्रिया माहेश्वरी वृषारूढा कौमारी शिखिवाहना लक्ष्मीः पद्मासना देवी पद्महस्ता हरिप्रिया
माहेश्वरी वृषारूढा कौमारी शिखिवाहना लक्ष्मीः पद्मासना देवी पद्महस्ता हरिप्रिया माहेश्वरी वृषारूढा कौमारी शिखिवाहना लक्ष्मी पद्मासना देवी पद्महस्ता हरिप्रिया.
And the Devi long e, so you can just stretch it a little bit, okay? Shweta Rupa Dhara Devi Ishwari Vrishabhahana Brahmi Hamsa Samarudha Sarvabharana Bhushita. Shweta Rupa Dhara Devi Ishwari Vrishabhahana Brahmi Hamsa Samarudha Sarvabharana Bhushita.
श्वेतरूपधरा देवी ईश्वरी वृषवाहना ब्राह्मी हंससमारूढा सर्वाभरणभूषिता श्वेतरूपधरा देवी ईश्वरी वृषवाहना ब्राह्मी हंससमारूढा सर्वाभरणभूषिता
श्वेतरूपधरा देवी ईश्वरी वृषवाहना ब्राह्मी हंससमारूढा सर्वाभरणभूषिता श्वेतरूपधरा देवी ईश्वरी वृषवाहना ब्राह्मी हंससमारूढा सर्वाभरणभूषिता.
We'll just stop it here because almost time, and the next one will take time. Okay. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Okay. Any questions from anyone else? We can meet next Wednesday.
Hey Rajesh, quick question. Some letters have been printed in red, right? What is the significance?
Tamil, yeah.
Tamil, yeah.
I have to see what it means. Like in the letter.
I think it's like instead of pa, it is bha. So that, as long as I observed. That's
Give me the example of one which is printed in one which is in.
Okay, the first one la Sweta Rupa Tara Devi. I love the Rupa Tara Tavo Devi ki deyum the red irukku.
Yeah, so Rupa Tarak badla Rupa Dhara Devi the solnunga.
Ama. So because Tamil la vandu tha means Sanskrit la tha the right, 4 are there. So if they have put it in red, I'm assuming it is 3 or 4. Adukku nadu adile have they put any numbers?
No, number la du podala.
So
code irukku adila.
So maybe that means I am assuming if it's red, it is number 3, and if it is got a red underline, it is number 4 then. So you got to kind of understand what that code is there, right? In Tamil, if you're following that. Okay, you might be a little hard in the beginning to understand what it is. But Sanskrit is pretty straightforward. It's just one letter. I think even Telugu, it's only one letter. For each of it is a separate letter. So, yeah.
So Rajesh, in the intro, would you be sharing with us?
Yeah. I'll send you the PDF. Yeah.
Are you going to give us the meaning sometime?
Yeah. From next class, we'll do the meaning at the beginning of the class, and then we'll get into the stanzas. Today, I want to at least cover 10 stanzas, to get started, right? So.
Okay.
So on the Tamil book on page 10, there's a guide to reading the colors.
Oh, for Tamil?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a guide to reading.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. Good night then.
Thank you, Rajesh, for this
Thank you,
opportunity.
Rajesh.
Bye, everyone.